Chapter 15 Qualitative Data Analysis of Interviews. Emil Ardongar. Abstract. Medical educators are often required to handle text data in the form of interview transcripts, feedbacks, free list of responses, posts on social media platforms, or description of observations. Often, there is a lack of clarity on how to carry out qualitative data analysis in a systematic and scientific manner. The purpose of the present chapter is to introduce the basic terms used in qualitative data analysis and to offer robust and practical tips to thematic analysis of the text data generated during interviews. This chapter will elaborate steps in conducting qualitative data analysis, such as deciding the approach to data analysis based on theoretical underpinning, transcription, selecting the meaningful unit relevant to research questions for coding, categories, and theme generation, writing memos and reflexivity, presentation of results, and steps to ensure rigor in qualitative data analysis. In the end, some resources have been suggested for further exploration. Keywords: qualitative data analysis, transcription, codes, categories, themes. Assess need. Educational institutions are complex social environments due to mutual interaction among students, teachers, parents, society, and regulating accrediting agencies. Decision making in such dynamic environments require understanding and accommodation of diverse views of its stakeholders. The educational processes such as curriculum development, implementation, evaluation of educational intervention, and change management after accreditation require qualitative processes such as exploration of perspectives, understanding the problem from stakeholders' point of view, and systematic consensus building for change management. All this is best achieved through qualitative research methods. Medical educators are required to handle text data in the form of interview transcripts, feedback in the form of words or short phrases, group discussions, posts on formal learning management system and social platforms, and description of free observations, etc. Though the basic qualitative data analysis revolves around codes and categorization, the overall approach to qualitative data analysis depends on the theoretical underpinning of research and the purpose of research. Often the qualitative findings are felt as less defensible owing to lack of transparency and robustness in qualitative analysis processes. There are ways to ensure rigor in qualitative research to generate the evidence to facilitate decision making. Hence, the purpose of the present chapter is to offer robust and practical tips to content and thematic analysis to text data generated during interviews. Brief. The chapter will elaborate qualitative data analysis under the following heads. 1. Deciding the approach to data analysis based on theoretical underpinning. 2 steps in qualitative data analysis. Transcription. Selecting the meaningful unit relevant to research questions for coding, categories, and theme generation, writing memos and reflexivity, presentation of results, steps to ensure rigor in qualitative data analysis. CO and 3x Imagine a situation where you as an educational researcher have interviewed data from your students and faculty which answers to a wide types of questions to explain some phenomenon. Being a novice, you get overwhelmed and feel that there is too much chaos in the text data. Now you want to find out the order in that chaos and make sense of what is going on. To make the process systematic and scientific, you must decide the approach to data analysis, transcription, coding, categorization, and finally the presentation of results. The present chapter aims to offer practical tips on technical know-how of these steps. Let us begin the journey. Describe. Deciding the approach to data analysis based on theoretical underpinning. The first step in data analysis is to decide the data analysis approach which is in alignment with the theoretical underpinning and purpose of the research. theoretical underpinnings or philosophical assumptions about the nature of truth and reality which guides the research. Qualitative research assumes truth as multiple and subjective realities. There are two major approaches to qualitative data analysis. One descriptive approach, where the purpose is to describe and summarize information under codes and categories. It is less abstract and less iterative design. This approach is useful for less complex data. For example, it involves summarization of text data on opinion, reasons, feedbacks. Through interpretative approach where the purpose is to make the meaning by reflecting on what does it mean. Phenomenological approach helps to understand the lived-in experiences of the participants. In this approach, participants are asked to share their experiences with the phenomenon. For example, what is lived-in experience of students undergoing a course. Wimmer et al. Interviewed learners with problems, parents, and teachers to explore their current experiences to develop the model of student support system. According to Octay, in grounded theory, the purpose is to develop a middle-range theory to explain the phenomenon of interest. It offers plausible explanation to observed behavior. Armoring et al. Used the grounded theory approach to know how first-year medical students perceive research and which factors motivates and demotivate them. Ethnography aims to understand the culture in its natural environment from participants' point of view. Becker and Hughes carried out an ethnographic study to know how medical students progress through their first year of medical school to build their own student culture. Being interpretative in nature, both grounded theory and ethnography are more flexible and more abstract in nature. In both the approaches, there is a risk of influence of researchers' background and biases on the way coding, categorization, and interpretations are done. Hence, researcher needs to be aware and acknowledge these influences during analysis and interpretations. Though the basic steps in data analysis for both the approaches involves creation of codes, bring similar codes together to form categories and themes. The approach to codes and categorization for each of them varies a little. The basic steps in data analysis are 1. Transcription, through selecting the meaningful unit relevant to research questions for coding. 3. Categories and theme generation. 4. Reporting and reflexivity. Transcription. After interviews are conducted, the next step is to transcribe the data. It can be seen as data entry phase in quantitative research. Transcription is the process of transforming spoken conversation to written language. It may also involve translation from regional language to English if the team involves people from diverse regions or when there is a plan to use software in data analysis. As there is conversion of spoken language into written and translation from regional languages, there is risk of loss of information. Hence, a great care is required to ensure the representation of what has been said in the interview. You noted the benefit of traditional listen and type method by the researcher himself or herself. It offers the opportunity to researcher to understand the data well. This step is seen as beginning of analysis as it involves extracting the meaning of what is being said in the interview. Software programs such as Express Scribe, Audacity, and Atlas Die helps in transcription. Verbatim transcript is prepared to exactly capture the spoken words or lines in the interview. As transcription is a time-consuming process, it is advised to start it as soon as possible, preferably same day or within a week. It might take more than 3 to 4 hours or even more to transcribe the content of a 1-hour conversation. It is the responsibility of the researcher to accurately represent the thoughts of the participants in transcripts. Early transcription offers an opportunity to reflect on the interview process and questioning and improve it with the subsequent interviews. Box 1 demonstrates a sample verbatim transcript for response to one question. Please note that it is a simulated response to a question for understanding and exercise purpose. Box 1 Verbatim Transcript. Interviewer, in what way has the COVID pandemic changed the teaching and learning for you all as a group? Respondent, as a part of our routine teaching, we used to have group discussions where we used to discuss on the assigned topic. It used to help us to know what others think about it, thus help us learn from each other. After pandemic, it is no longer happening. One of our most favorite was field visits to centers and nearby villages. Anything which would take us out of the campus was our favorite. It used to help us see people, their houses, and interact with them. In addition to that, we all would get an opportunity to closely interact with each other. Due to lockdown measures, it is also not happening now. In current time, we have online lecture sessions on various online learning platforms. Sometimes teachers host quiz and MCQ tests for us. Storage of data. Qualitative research involves in-depth study on a small sample size. It is researchers' responsibility to take measures to ensure confidentiality of their participants. To begin with, decide who all in the research team will have access to data. As sample size is small, it is easy to identify who said what, particularly when researchers know the participants. Hence, it is advised to anonymize the transcript by using pseudonames. The audio file, transcript, and consent form for each group interview or one-to-one interview should be kept in one folder for easy retrieval. Name the files and folders to avoid the confusion. The soft copy of data should be kept in a password-protected system, and hard copies of transcripts should be kept in a locked cabinet. Coding. If the research involves single data source such as interviews, small amount of data, and the researcher is trained to handle the codes manually, then manual approach to coding is best. However, if the data is large and researcher is skilled and familiar with software-assisted data analysis, then software may be used for analysis. One can use pencil or colored pens for coding on transcripts. Alternatively, one can use new comment function in Microsoft Word to tag the relevant portion in the transcripts with the codes. The choice of method depends on researchers' comfort and familiarity with the approach and tools used. In content and thematic analysis, the basic meaning-making tactics includes counting, clustering, linking, comparing, and summarization. A quantitative approach to qualitative data is called as content analysis. It includes counting and clustering. A qualitative approach to text data is called as thematic analysis, where the major purpose is coding, categorization, and description of its summary. There are more than 32 types of coding and more than 15 types of qualitative data presentation. Descriptive and interpretive type of coding are most basic and commonly used for codes and categorization of interview data. In descriptive coding, the portion of text data which is explicitly relevant to research questions is coded or indexed. The word or the phrase for code is taken from the text itself. Descriptive coding is easy as it is less abstract. It is usually written in 2 to 3 words. In interpretative coding, the researcher has to infer the underlying meaning which is hidden in the text data. It is more abstract as it requires interpretation. Hence, there is a risk that researchers' background and prior knowledge about the subject have influenced the way things are seen and interpreted. A sample codebook for interpretative coding exercise is given in Table 1. It is common to use both descriptive and interpretive type of coding in a single analysis process. Most of descriptive and even inferential type of qualitative data analysis revolves around this basic step of codes, categorization, and theme generation. Table 1 Codebook Development. Unit of Transcript. Meaning of the unit. Code, memo, Category and theme generation. Once the coding is done, next step is categorization. It includes the examination of characteristics of codes, its similarities and differences, and then clustering the related or similar codes to form the categories. Thus, a cluster of similar codes is called as categories. These categories need a label to be given. Subsequently, cluster of similar or related categories can form the theme or concept. Thus, a shift from codes to categorization and themes leads to data reduction from more specific to general. Meanings of units and memos in codebook can help in categorization and theme generation. To bring interpretative credibility, qualitative data analysis is done by a team of two or more researchers. The exercise can be done by two investigators together where they build the codes and categories in consensus. Secondly, one researcher does the coding and categorization and other informed researcher reviews it. In another option, two researchers do the codes and categorization independently and then review it together. Any discrepancies between the two can be resolved by mutual discussion or by consulting another researcher. The researcher undertaking the coding should be aware about the literature so that he do not miss the new information. Demonstration on descriptive codes and categorization. Let us quote the above paragraph. Steps involved in thematic analysis are 1. Transcription, 2. Code the relevant text data, 3. Bring the similar units together to form categories, 4. Summarize, describe, and report. Assume that the purpose of coding is to understand the changes in teaching and learning due to COVID pandemic. Let us do the descriptive coding where the main purpose is to index what we explicitly find in the data which is relevant to our research question. Please refer to Table 2 for demonstration of codes and categorization. Table 2 Demonstrations of codes and categorization. Transcript. Interviewer: in what way COVID pandemic has changed the teaching and learning for you all as a group? Respondent: as a part of our routine teaching, we used to have group discussions where we used to discuss on the assigned topic. It used to help us to know what others think about it, thus help us learn from each other. After pandemic, it is no longer happening. Descriptive code, group discussion, categories, switching activities ceased. One of our most favorite was field visits to centers and nearby villages. Anything which would take us out of the campus was our favorite. It used to help us see people, their houses, and interact with them. In addition to that, we all would get an opportunity to closely interact with each other. Due to lockdown measures, it is also not happening now. Field visits. In current time, we have online lecture sessions on various online learning platforms. Online lectures, switching activities. Sometimes teachers host quiz and MCQ tests for us. MCQ test quiz. Thus, we got 4 descriptive codes: group discussion, field visits, online lectures, and MCQ tests quiz. On comparison of codes with each other, you will note that codes, group discussion, and field visit are similar in the way that these activities are no longer happening. Other 2 codes, online lectures and MCQ tests. Quiz are those activities which are still ongoing. We can categorize these 4 codes into 2 categories. 1. Teaching activities ceased and 2. Teaching activities ongoing. You may note that the codes are closer to data as compared to categories. It is important to note that it is the content that is captured by the code is important than the words selected for the code. The length of unit coded should be long enough for researcher to make out meaning when it is decontextualized. As we move from codes to categories and themes, we tend to shift from more specific to general, become more abstract in nature. In large data, one may get a greater number of categories which may be hard to summarize and describe. In such situations, a pile sort of categories may be done to form clusters of related categories, which is called a theme. When themes are linked with each other to explain the phenomenon, then it is called a theory. Following figure 1 summarizes the journey from codes to a theory. Figure 1 Journey from codes to a theory. Writing memo and reflexivity. In complex data with statements having latent meanings, it is important to document the researcher's thought or reflections about codes and yet to be examined ideas, known as memos. The documentation of memos helps to hold the transient thoughts emerged during coding and subsequently bring more direction and clarity to categorization process. In addition, the act of comparison of codes, themes, and theories help discover new ideas. These analytic memos help to link themes to form a theory to explain the phenomenon of interest. Hence, its explicit documentation during the coding process is an essential step. When the meaning of statements to be coded is explicit, then descriptive coding is close to intended meaning of the participants. However, in interpretive coding, as researcher has to think of implicit meaning hidden in the lines, there is a risk of influence of researcher's background, subject knowledge, and perspectives. In such cases, bracketing i.e., setting aside the researcher's biases and perspectives while coding is crucial to accurately make out the meaning of what has been said in the interviews. It is advised that researchers think and document their preconceptions about study topic, its sources, and their response to the research questions before embarking on the coding exercise. The memo, i.e., reflective thoughts about code can be documented on margin of the transcripts in a separate diary or as audio memo, whichever methods is convenient for researcher to retrieve and refer. This exercise of documenting brings their perceptions to the level of consciousness. It is to be kept in mind that the purpose is not to ignore researchers' perceptions if supported by data, but to allow coding of data other than these perspectives to capture diversity. Presentation of results. At descriptive level, the results can be presented as description of themes and categories. You may provide representative quotes under each description. You can examine the number and frequency of codes to get its groundedness in the data. The frequency of codes may help in comparison and discovery of themes. One may present complex data in visual forms such as a conceptual framework, pathway, or a network diagram for better explanation. The results can also be presented as non-hierarchical typology. It is to be kept in mind that the output should be presented in such a manner that it answers the research questions. At inferential level, a code by respondent proximity matrix may be obtained for carrying out analysis by using visualization techniques such as correspondence analysis or network analysis. These data reduction techniques help to identify the salient or central codes. Such proximity matrix can be easily obtained in software-assisted qualitative data analysis. The steps in data analysis and reporting have been presented in the following figure. The findings of qualitative study can be reported using established checklists such as consolidated criteria for reporting qualitative research. One has to make the best efforts to illuminate the context, methods chosen, rationale for choices, and decision taken, so as to help the readers to make decision on applicability of findings to their settings. Figure 2 summarizes the basic steps in data analysis and measures required to ensure rigor in study findings. Figure 2 steps in data analysis and corresponding steps to ensure rigor in results. Measures to improve the rigor in QDA. In quantitative research, the quality of evidence is decided by internal and external validity. The generalizability in quantitative research is decided by statistical generalizability model. In qualitative research, it is decided by the transferability model of generalizability and credibility. The credibility of qualitative research can be enhanced by ensuring congruency between study findings and reality. It is achieved by measures such as participant validation, where the interviewer checks his or understanding with the participant so that he can accurately represent what participant has said. Participants may be given the transcript to review and edit before subjecting it for analysis. The researcher may share findings with the peers or externals for their review and comments. Denzin has proposed 4 strategies for triangulation. 1. Using more than one source of data collection. 2. Using more than one source for data collection. 3. Use more than one researcher in data analysis and interpretation, and 4. Use of multiple theories to confirm the findings. Among the various ways to ensure credibility, researcher may choose 2 to 3 approaches which are feasible and relevant to the research purpose. Transferability refers to extent to which the findings of the present study can be applied to other similar settings. The researcher should illuminate the context in which the present study was undertaken. It should include details on background of the setting, number of participants, their demographics, sampling, tools used for data collection, methods, duration of interviews, and duration of the study. Researchers should explain the logic of inquiry and should describe the methods in detail. This detail of the context is expected to help the readers to decide on suitability of findings to their own circumstances. Theories or models developed to explain the phenomenon of interest may have analytic generalizability. Hence, findings of qualitative research may be considered for generalizability using transferability and analytic generalizability model. Summarize. 1. Review the study objectives, purpose, research questions. 2. Review the theoretical underpinning used for study design and data collection. 3. Decide the approach to data analysis, which is congruent to research questions and theoretical underpinning used for guiding the study. 4. Decide the type of coding required. 5. Document your thoughts about the research questions and its sources for bracketing. 6. Undertake coding and categorization. 7. Report the findings. 8. Ensure credibility, member checking, peer review of results, triangulation. 9. Illuminate the context and procedures used for data collection for transferability. 10. Report the findings in such a way that it answers the research questions. 11. Findings of qualitative research can be generalized using transferability and analytic generalizability model. Evaluate. Try your hand at coding and then categorizing the codes from these interviews. You may select a paragraph or transcript for hands-on practice line by line coding. Apply the lessons learned. You may do this activity in a pair. Decide the objective and start the coding and categorization. Road ahead. There are several ways to approach to qualitative data analysis. It depends on the purpose and type of data one has. It is always better to be focused and offer clarifications for the choices made in data analysis approach. As each data is unique, one needs to be flexible and creative to meet the purpose of analysis. The emerging output is thus influenced by theoretical sensitivity of the researchers and their approach to the research questions. You may go through following YouTube video what to do with your qualitative data. https://www.youtube.com/watch. Suggested reading: A New PS Step-by-Step Guide to Qualitative Data Coding. New York, Routledge, 2019. P. 1-444. Green, J. and Thorogood and Qualitative Methods for Health Research. In Silverman, D. London, The Sage Publications, 2014.